All right, stay with me. The Phoenix Suns are one of the most successful franchise in the NBA with no championships. And that doesn't even make sense when you really think about it. They had MVPs. They had revolutionary offenses. They had Hall of Fame talent. They even had moments where it felt like it was finally their time. 1993, 2021, two different eras, same exact feeling. This is it. And both times, they didn't finish. So now the question becomes, is this just bad luck? Or is there something deeper about how this franchise is built? Today, we are talking about why the Phoenix Suns, with multiple different types of lineups, eras, and just talent all around, why the Phoenix Suns can't figure it out. If you guys don't know, yo, what's up? My name is Meg Siafa. This is my YouTube channel. Stay with me. And this is where I just, give my, hot takes and, explain myself for like 15 to 20-ish minutes. I know, it's been a while since I made a video because I was sick and I was out of town. So, that was 3 weeks. So, I'm back with more videos. But let's get on with the video. The Suns were founded in 1968. The oldest franchise in NBA history could never win a title. And what makes it worse, they're not irrelevant. They're not a bottom tier organization. They are a top 5 franchise in all-time winning percentages. Think about that. They win more than most teams, but when it matters, they don't win at all. 3 finals appearances, 1976, 1993, and 2021. And every single time, they walk away empty. The Suns have never had a problem finding talent. They've never had a problem building contenders. The problem is finishing them. 1976, a team that wasn't even supposed to be there, they pushed the Files to the brink. Triple overtime. One of the greatest games ever played. They lose. 1993, an MVP season, 62 wins. A team that believed it was destiny. They lose. 2021, a perfect mix of youth and experience. A 2-0 lead in the finals. They lose. And at some point, that stopped being a coincidence. Let's start with 1993. Charles Barkley was unstoppable. He wins MVP. He carries the Suns to a 62-win season, and he says something that defines this era. God wants us to win the championship. And honestly, it felt like he was right. But then reality showed up. Michael Jordan. And not just Jordan, a dynasty. The Suns has offense, they had energy, they had belief. But what they didn't have was a way to stop greatness. Jordan averaged 41 points, and when the series come down to one moment, they collapsed defensively. They didn't lose because they weren't talented, they lost because they weren't complete. Then comes the most important era in Suns history. Steve Nash. This team didn't just play basketball, they changed it. 7 seconds or less. They turned offense into a weapon. They forced the entire league to evolve. 5 straight seasons, #1 offense. But here's the problem. They tried to outrun their weaknesses instead of fixing it. That weakness? Defense. And in the playoffs. You can't hide that. 2007, this is the year. They're rolling, they have control of the series, and then one moment changes everything. Giannis gets hip check, Amari Stoudemire steps on the court, suspended. They lose game 5 by 3 points. And this is where the Suns story becomes clear. Because there's always one moment away, but they're also always one flaw away. And after that, everything falls apart. Coaching changes, no identity, no direction, and this is where Devin Booker is born into chaos. A star with no structure, a franchise with no foundation. And that matters, because when you finally get good again, you don't know how to sustain it. Then finally, they figure it out. Chris Paul arrives, leadership, structure, Monty Williams builds a culture. This is the most balanced Suns team we've ever seen. And in 2021, they go up 2-0 in the finals. This is the moment. This is where everything changes, but it doesn't. Game 4, Booker dropped 42, they still lose. And then when you realize this isn't about scoring, this is about control. Giannis, he dominates the paint. The Suns have no answer. They were built to be precise, but the finals demand physicality. They were built for execution, but the finals demanded force, and they didn't have it. And what does Phoenix do? They don't adjust, they overcorrect. They go all in. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal. They sacrifice depth, they sacrifice defense, they sacrifice identity. They trade away players like Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson for star power. And on paper, it looks unstoppable. But basketball isn't play on paper. It's play in the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter, they collapse. Dead last in the NBA, worst clutch team, highest turnovers, lowest efficiency. They built a team that could score, but not a team that could win. So again, they reset. Katie's gone, new pieces. Jalen Green arrives, younger, faster, more explosive, new coach, new identity. But here's the real question. Is this a solution or just another version of the same cycle? Now here's where we have to zoom out, because everything we just talked about, the Barkley loss, the Nash collapse, the 2021 meltdown, and the Big 3 failure, that's not random, that's organizational. Let's start with the most obvious problem. Phoenix doesn't build continuity. They burn through it. Since drafting Devin Booker, the Suns have had 7 different head coaches. 7. That's not development, that's survival mode. And every time it's the same story. The coach is the problem. Monty Williams took this team to the finals. He built the culture. He won 64 games. He won Coach of the Year. And how did it end? Back-to-back elimination blowouts. And he's gone. Then they bring in Frank Vogel, a defensive coach with no defensive roster. How do you expect a defensive coach to win with no rim protector, no perimeter defenders, and 3 players who don't guard? He lasts 1 year, gone. Then comes Mike Budenholzer, the same coach that beat the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals. Then Jordan Ott. And now we're back to square one again. This isn't coaching failure, it's organizational and patience. Now let's talk about the front office, because this is the real problem starts. The Suns don't have a philosophy, they have reactions. They don't build teams, they respond to losses. Lose with Barkley, need more defense. Lose with Nash, need more toughness. Lose in 2021, need more stars. Lose with stars, need youth. They are constantly chasing the last thing that beats them, instead of building something sustainable. When they trade for Kevin Durant, it made sense. But when they double down with Bradley Beal, that's when it becomes desperation. 3 max contracts, no depth, no flexibility. And this is where it gets serious. The new CBA, the second Abraham. It doesn't just punish teams, it traps them. No trades, no flexibility, no mid-level signings. So now the Suns weren't just flawed, they were stuck. They didn't just build a bad roster, they built a roster that they couldn't fix. Let's talk about the real turning point. The moment Phoenix stopped being a team and become a gamble. The Mikal Bridges trade. Because when they trade Bridges, they didn't just lose a player, they lost. defense, energy, and identity. They trade away the glue for star power. And that's the Suns' biggest mistake. They keep trading the system for the spotlight. And here's something nobody talks about enough. The Suns don't build through the draft anymore. And when you don't draft well, you lose control. No cheap contributors, no development pipeline. Everything becomes trade. And eventually, you run out of assets. Before we even get to ownership, we need to talk about something even more important. The players they never kept or never chose. Because while Phoenix has been chasing stars, they quietly missed on building them. Since the Steve Nash era, the Suns hasn't just struggled in free agency, they struggle in the draft. And not just normal misses, franchise-altering misses. In 2006, they actually drafted Rajon Rondo and traded him on draft night. He becomes a starting point guard on a championship team while Phoenix kept chasing one. They also had Luol Deng, an elite two-way wing, traded before he even wore the jersey. Defense, length, consistency. Everything they needed, gone. In 2020, they had a chance to draft Tyrese Halliburton, a true point guard, a perfect floor general, a perfect fix next to Devin Booker. And let me go away from the script because I have to go deep on this. Because I remember talking about to my friends, Tyrese Halliburton would have been perfect for the Phoenix Suns. Just think about it. You have someone underneath Chris Paul. Just to think about how Shea with Chris Paul, but now instead of Shea, it's Tyrese Halliburton with Chris Paul. Oh my gosh, Devin Booker and Tyrese Halliburton could have been the light-skinned duo backcourt for them. But they passed on him. And he's now one of the best young guards in basketball. And Phoenix is still searching for someone to organize their offense. They passed on Jalen Brunson too, a playoff killer, a leader. The exact type of player you need when games slow down. And what has Suns struggled with most? Closing games. They actually drafted D'Anthony Melton, an elite defensive guard, and traded him early in his career, another defensive piece, gone. And then there's Jalen Smith, a lottery pick taking over multiple proven prospects he never developed and was gone within 2 years. Meanwhile, other teams found starters in the same draft range. Want me to tell you who are those players who was in the same draft range? Devin Vassell, Tyrese Halliburton, Aaron Naismith, Cole Anthony, Isaiah Stewart, Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickley, Payne Pritchard, Jaden McDaniels, Desmond Bain, and Isaiah Joe. Just to name a few. In 2016, the Suns had 2 lottery picks, number 4 and number 8. This is how you build a franchise. This is how you change your future. And what did Phoenix do? They drafted Dragon Bender and Marquise Chris. 2 bigs, both labeled as high potential, neither ready to actually play winning basketball. How do you miss twice in the top 8, especially in a draft full of rotational players and future contributors? They passed on players in that 2016 draft because, guess who was picked right after that? They passed on players like Buddy Hield, Jamal Murray, Jacob Portal, Domantas Sabonis, Tyrese Prince, Malik Beasley, Cavis LeVert, Pascal Siakam, and DeJounte Murray, and Ivica Zubac, and also Malcolm Brogdon, who won Rookie of the Year that year too. That wasn't just a bad draft. That was a wasted opportunity to build a core. 1 year later, they're right back in the lottery, 4th overall pick, and this time they take Josh Jackson. Athletic, raw, high upside, and once again, not ready. Meanwhile, Donovan Mitchell goes 13. All he does is this becomes a franchise scorer immediately. And not just Donovan Mitchell, they passed on players like De'Aaron Fox, a speedy point guard that can work perfectly well with Devin Booker, Lauri Markkanen, Malik Monk, Bam Adebayo, Jarrett Allen, OG Anunoby, Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Dylan Brooks, just to name a few. And how many times do you have to miss the same archetype before you realize you're scouting the wrong thing? Now let's go back to 2011. The Suns draft Markieff Morris with the 13th pick. And to be fair, he actually played well early. But then the attitude, the off-court issues, and suddenly the pick starts to age differently. But the real story isn't Markieff. It's who they passed on. They passed on Kawhi Leonard. And why? Because during the interviews, he was quiet, nervous, and sweating. That's it. They passed on future Finals MVP because he wasn't comfortable in a room. It doesn't just stop there. They passed on players like Nikola Vucevic and Jimmy Butler. One becomes an all-star center. The other one becomes a definition of playoff toughness. 3 all-star level players passed on for one player who didn't last. So when you really look at it, this isn't random. This is a pattern. They fall in love with potential instead of production. They draft projects instead of players. And when those projects don't develop, they panic and trade for stars. The Suns just don't miss in the draft. They misunderstand what winning players look like. And when your foundation is built like that, it doesn't matter how many stars you trade for, the cracks will always show. And then there's ownership. When Matt Ibisha took over, he didn't come in slow. He came aggressive. Big moves, big names, big expectations. But here's the problem. Urgency doesn't equal clarity. They try to skip steps in a league that punishes shortcuts. So when you look at the Suns, you can't just blame the players. You can't just blame the coaches. You have to look at the system. A system with no patience, no identity, no long-term plan. And that's why, no matter the era, no matter the stars, the results stay the same. So now, we've seen everything. The history, the stars, the collapse, the front office, the draft pick, the ownership. And the only thing left to ask, will it ever change? The Suns don't fail because they're unlucky. They fail because they never fully commit to a complete team. They chase scoring, they chase stars, they chase moments, but they don't build sustainability. They are always one piece away because they keep throwing away the pieces they already had. They build hope, they build excitement, they build contenders, but they never build the one thing that actually matters. A team that can finish. They always get close enough to believe, but never complete enough to actually win. And until they figure that out, the Phoenix Suns will always remain almost.